Let me ask you this. Someplace I saw remote teaching. Are you doing remote teaching? Okay.
We're 100% virtual. Yeah.
Okay. Well, maybe I should just start. Did Joel go over this red poster, the student engagement poster? Okay. I'll just give you this one more. We made up one for online because we started doing online. So I just kind of have some rules for the students. We want all your cameras on. We want your name written in there so we can see who you are. Be ready to mute and unmute. And I expect you to be looking at me and not on your cell phone or playing around. And then participate. If I do a gesture, if I want to see a whiteboard response, I expect you to do it. And if we do choral reading, ELD is a lot of choral reading is important and pronouncing words. I want you all to participate with that. And then we've got the chat as a backup. So there's a few things you could just go through with your students first. Now, here's the easiest way to get it. You're at Edusary. And right here where it says curriculum, we're going to click right there. And now it says the ELD curriculum is right down here, K-12 ELD. All right, so I'm just going to click on that and it's going to blow up. Now I need to go full screen. I can either use the little icon here or the part up here to go full screen. Now let me ask you, you're working 6 to 12, is that correct?
We have TK through 12, so we're all different grade levels. I'm 9 through 12.
Okay, so we're talking about the older students now. Okay. Now, have you placed them? So for the older students, you should be up in one of these levels here, D, E, or F. This is for the beginning students who need to learn the alphabet and the letters and sight words. And up here, we're more in the reading comprehension level for up here. So you just,
I do 6, 7, and 8, level 2, and a document that Joel sent, which had like the correlation. I think I'm at level B or C. So one of my main concerns is I looked at some of those lessons and they're meant for younger kids. So how to do that with like kids who are in middle school.
well, let me do one. I think the graphics were down there. The content is exactly the same. If you're an adult and you learn English, you have to learn the letters, the letter sounds, phonemic awareness, phonics, and that stuff. So we've used it with all kind of levels. But for right now, let me just start up here with one of the older ones, and then we can come back later. So I'm going to pick Q1 right here, quarter one. We've got 4 quarters right here. So now here's our weeks right here. So I can select the week I'm on, and then these are the what we've got paced out for every day. So you can see we've got simple verb tenses, context clues, and usually the first day we spend some time training our students how to pair share. Now, the students are just at home by themselves, aren't they? Or are they in groups?
They're all at home by themselves, working independently.
Okay, but you've got to realize how important the pair shares are for ELD. That's when you do the listening and speaking. Turn to your partner. The character trait in the passage is, I want that complete sentence. So train your students to do a pair share just out in space. If the question is what is the verb tense, then you're going to say the verb tense is blank because how do you know? And that's part of our thing is just you're going to have them pair share on their own. Because when the students pair share, I mean, just to space, I want everyone to say the answer. I want to see your lips moving, and then I'll call a non-volunteer or 2 or 3 non-volunteers to report out. And the choral reading is the same thing. When you do the choral reading, we need everybody to come in. You see how we have 2 days to teach every lesson? Okay. So here's the first week right here. And then if you go to the second week, you've got independent practice time right here. So these are the independent practice from the one we just had before. Now, independent practice could almost be done as guided practice with you. Do each problem, read the problem, have the students write the answers, maybe hold up their whiteboards and explain back and forth. So they're not just sitting by themselves doing some work by themselves. So I think that would probably be a better way to do these. Now, if you look at the lesson, you do have a handout right here. You see right here, you can download your own handout for the students or email it to them. Most people work without a handout. They just do it from the screen and do it in real time and then have the students use whiteboards and hold up responses and show to you. All right, so when we get here, you can blow it up here or you can blow it up here. So I'm going to blow it up right here. Okay. And then these little arrows down here on the right are the ones that advance and move it. And you can also, I think, use the cursor up and cursor down and other keys on your keyboard. If you remember the red poster, you can see it behind me up here, pronounce with me and track and read. And these are the very strong EL practices. You're doing listening and speaking. So this is a word determine. Listen carefully, students. The word is determine. Let's all say it together. Ready to go? Determine. Can you say determine on your own twice? Let me see your lips moving. Determine, determine. Very good. And we've got the meaning down here. I think you know for ELs, the research says one of the weakest parts for ELs is their what's called academic language. This is content language, context clues. Academic is that general, correspond, determine, distinguish, determine, separate. So we always try to do 2 to 6 words in a lesson with footnotes. And then when the pair shares and stuff, we want the students to start using those new words in their speaking and answering questions. So I define determine means to figure out something. I can determine what day it is by looking at a calendar or looking at my watch or something. The teacher can determine your grades, and I could even do a checking for understanding. Can you give me determine in your own sentence? Now, one of our big things, if you look behind me, is the tracked reading. Track with me and read with me. So students, I'm going to read this and you're going to read it afterwards. I want to see all your lips moving. We will determine the meaning of words using context clues. Okay, let's all read. We will determine the meaning of words using context clues. Now, I want you to just read that to yourself. You don't have a partner, but if you had a partner, you'd be reading. So just go ahead and read that to yourself out loud. Out loud, has to be out loud. Look at the words. And then I'm going to pick a couple of you to read it back to me. Shauna, you can do it. Shauna, can you read this back for the class? Starting right here. We will.
We will determine the meaning of words using context clues.
Okay, now you can see how important this is for ELs. I think you probably heard that ratio teacher talk to student talk. I'm not sure what the exact number is, 30, 40, 50%. If you just read this yourself, the students are not reading anything and they're not saying anything. So I usually track with the cursor. You read it kind of a slow rate, not the adult rate, and then let the students read it back and then call non-volunteers to read it back. And you'll even find after you've pre-pronounced words, students still sometimes have a hard time pronouncing the new words, so make them do that too. Okay, so I'm just going to do a couple more things in here. Okay, students, we have some directions here. Let's read them together. Look at this picture. Where are they? Okay, get your whiteboards. Write down where you think they are and how you think you know. Look at the pictures in here. Okay, this is activate pronouns. Okay, explained in space. You don't have a partner, but explain your answer and be ready to hold it up and show me. And then people will say, oh, they're in the computer lab. I said, well, how do you know? Oh, it says computer right here. I see computers over here. They're probably in the lab. Very good. Students, you figured out they were in the computer lab just by looking at these clues on the page. And that's what we're going to do today when we use context clues, but we're going to look at text and try to determine the meanings of words. Okay, I'm not going to teach the whole thing, but the idea is what? We have the students read this thing, and then we elaborate. And basically, you want the students to read every word on the page. That's all. I'll just show you how we do this. Context clues can be nearby words or pictures that help determine the meaning of words. Now, you need to pre-read, especially for the younger students, you need to pre-read. You read what they follow, and then everybody reads with you. For the older students, you can make a judgment call that you may not need to pre-read every word, maybe just pre-read a few words. So do that reading and have the students read it with you. Marcos, and we would read this. This word is exhausted. Can we all say that? Exhausted. Let's read together. Marcos had been running hard in soccer practice. He was exhausted. Remember what we said? The nearby words can help us figure out this unknown word, exhausted. We've got this word running hard. Running hard. He's probably tired. I can even see in the picture he's sitting down. So these are what we mean by context clues. And we have a gesture too. Larry, you remember the gesture? We have an unknown word and we can use what? Nearby words to figure out the meaning of the unknown word. So let's just say if we can do, we're going to read this and use our gesture. Okay, ready to go? Context clues can be nearby words or pictures that help determining the meaning of words or of an unknown word. Okay, basically this is the way it's taught. To get EL out of it, a lot of listening, a lot of speaking, every sentence. I would even have the class read this. Class, we're going to read the question. Which word in the sentence are context clues that help determine achievement means success? And here's the sentence. Listen carefully. He celebrated his greatest achievement with all his friends. Now, I'm going to stop for a second. There's a difference between reading these words. This has academic vocabulary, and sometimes these are more like conversational words. So make sure we're reading the text they're being taught from. This is some of the latest research when Common Core came out. I'll just show you the next page when we do these. These are set up. Oh, the answers come in. Make sure you've got the sentence frame. The phrase blank, whiteboard, A or B, the phrase blank is the context clue because, and celebrated would be something you would be happy because achievement must be something. So celebrated would be the success. Celebrated tells us that word. Make sure we use the sentence frames. We want them to talk in complete sentences, and EL should be no pronouns. It's not it. It's the context clue, the character trait, the text structure. Okay, so now I talked too long, so I need my own checking for understanding to the audience, which is going to be you right now. Okay, so what is the technique you saw me doing between this page or either the first page? That's a technique that you could use in your classroom right now. What was something you saw me do that you could do right now? And I'll let you think for a second, then I'm going to call a couple people to go around. Okay, so Mark, is Mark on?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, what's one technique you could use that you've kind of seen me use in the last few minutes?
Reading aloud, asking the students to kind of read along with you.
This is a big change because I've seen a lot of EL classes, ELD, and the teacher's reading all the words. So we need the students to read the words. Okay, Shauna, maybe you can tell me something you pick. It can be the same thing or something new.
Yeah, just what you said about having the student read every word on the page.
Yeah, every word. Then we're making it really ELD. You're doing listening, speaking, and you're doing reading. And then the pre-reading, you can make your judgment call, like how much you need to pre-read. Okay, there's 2 or 3 ways of doing that. The basic way is to track reading. Shauna, for young students that are struggling readers or beginning readers or new ELs, you need to read everything. Now, let me just give you a couple ways to do this. If you really need to scaffold, you can read in chunks. So students, listen carefully, and you're always pointing to the words. So we're doing reading and speaking. Context clues can be nearby words. Okay, but let's read. Context clues can be nearby words, my turn, or pictures, your turn, or pictures that help determine the meaning of words. Let's read the last part. That help determine the meaning of words. So there's a lot of techniques you can do. The full, pre-post, the chunked reading. The chunked reading is great as a scaffolding technique if you've got some struggling readers or beginning people in there. And even for the beginning ELs, if they just echo it after you, they're not necessarily reading every word. That's a good way to do it. Okay, one more thing in here then here's another checking for understanding question. Okay. And you notice, look at the context clue that helps determine the meaning of egret is blank because we want the students to be talking like this. So you should have a sentence frame every time, and these lessons generally have a pre-written sentence frame. Okay, so now we're doing the problems. Now we have down here, these are called the markup, I guess. So I'm clicking the pen. And this is really set up for teacher student. You'll see pairs. This is meant for you to do this first one self. You've got the directions up here. You read the directions and then you identify the clues you're going to use. And this would be the clue right here. Now you need to be able to model how you pick that, not just, oh, I know it means smart. I know doesn't count. You have to show some thinking process where you go through the words. So this would be the first one you would do for yourself. And then you should ask this question. So students, how did I determine that clever must mean smart? And how did I look at these clues? And then this next one is for the students. Okay, let's read together. Fluttered, let's read the sentence. Here's our 3 choices. Closed, flapped, open. Write on your whiteboard, A, B, or C. Be ready to explain. Oh, nope. Be ready to tell me which clue you used and your answer. Okay, and you should have something like the context clue. Get that vocabulary. The context clue is. Remember we said this is academic vocabulary, determine, identify, meaning, sentence, and this is more like conversational English, butterfly, flower, wings, and flew away. And we're trying to work on this other language at the same time. Teacher, student, and maybe the students could do the last one too. Go back and forth. All right, you're going to see later in the lesson, we do periodic review and independent practice. So I'm looking down here, we're just this, it's called the hamburger. I don't know why it looks like a hamburger, but we're in skill development right now. Later on, when you come down, you say, students, we're going to do the independent practice today. You're going to go down to here, independent practice, and just click on that one. And then you're right here in the independent practice. And probably online, this would be better to just do it as guided practice. Get your whiteboards out. Let's read the sentence together. Write down your answer and be ready to tell me what your clue was. Okay. And there's our clues right there. So just do it one at a time rather than just the students working by themselves and showing the answers. You can make that judgment call. You also have periodic review later on, and it's in the calendar. So this is meant to be listening and speaking. I don't think the audio is always working, but you can click over here, click right here, and this is, you're supposed to read this and the students are supposed to listen to you, and then from the context clues which one it would be. I think there may be, I'm not sure the audio will.
1. We are surrounded by many plants. One example is ferns, which are flowerless. They are easy to recognize by the feather-like shape of their leaves.
Okay, right on your whiteboards, is it A, B, or C? And be ready to tell me how you know. So it does work here. This is because, you know, we have tests that do this like listening only. So can we answer stuff with that? And then I think there's a periodic review 2 and 3 also. So just to remind us how we get around, we went all the way, started at curriculum, just the mechanics. We picked this right here. And then we blew it up full screen. Then we picked quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3. I picked quarter 1 in level D. And then all you need to do is know where you are like this. And you can make some judgment calls, whether to speed up, slow down, skip a few days, however you think it's working. Let me ask you, how are you going to level the students to which level they're going to take?
With our middle school, actually middle school and high school teachers, we have assigned students based on their current proficiency levels. So
Okay.
all the students that they're assigned to are relative in their performance levels. So, and I don't know, Shauna and Mark, you may have more input if you have made any decisions as far.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that was one of my main questions for this, because I have level 2. So the information I got was that I would pick from either level B or level C lessons,
Okay,
but they're like meant for like really young kids. And just in the talking to my students over the last couple of weeks, the ones who have talked, which is quite a few, like they just don't seem to be at this level, like they seem to be beyond it. So I just don't know how to like find that like the place that we're, supposed to be at.
Well, if you look in here, do you see how we're still doing phonics and phonemic awareness phonics in here? This is the letter sounds. If your students already know the letter sounds, they're beyond this. And you can skip to the second over here and go more to spelling. And then these are more like text-based questions, multiple meaning words. Okay, so you could teach this and then
Okay,
skip this part. This reading foundational is really the very basic. So you really have almost 2 levels in the same program. Okay, we're in level C, but you've got the students who are still learning the alphabet, and the students who know the alphabet do not need to repeat that. Okay, so you could start right here with multiple meaning words. And I'll just tell you, multiple meaning words are very tricky for English learners. They think turn right means go this way. It also means civil rights. It means right angle. It means, correct, right or wrong. And the students will tend to use the initial meaning they already know. So we do have a multiple meaning word lesson. And so right here we've got bark, like bark on a tree, and then bark the dog makes. So, and they have to use context clues because there's no way to tell. If I just say the word bark, you don't know what it means till use some words in the sentence to tell you. So these are ones to do that with. But this would work with all grade levels. So I think what you could do is you need to look and see where your students are, and don't get into this part here. This is meant for really beginning. It's technically it's kindergarten standards, learn the letters of the alphabet and the
Yeah.
sounds.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yeah, so you can jump over here and go right into this. Okay. So, all right, let's see if we've got anything else on here. Now, the orange poster, I hope Joel went over this, but all the strategies I'm using, I'm just doing everything off here. This is the tracked reading, track and read with me. I read first, you read after me. The gesture, remember I said context clues are nearby words. Gestures are good. It's not very often you can get a kinesthetic activity for students. And gestures is a basic EL strategy. We used to do a minuscule, gigantic, okay? But gestures in our case is to help us to remember stuff, okay? An unknown word with surrounding words. Character traits are revealed by what he thinks, what he says, and what he does. Let's think about that. Character traits are revealed by something he thinks, something he says, or something he does. And these are great for cueing students later on if you need some. It's good to get some kinesthetic activities in there. Pair share, remember I said we're going to simulate the pair share. I want every student to answer in space and be ready if I call on you to call me. You can have an attention signal. The generic one is class, class, yes, yes. That's really important when you do pair shares in an actual classroom. Class, class, yes, yes, and they're ready to go. You could even try it. Whiteboards. Do you have whiteboards? Your students have whiteboards?
Just depends on the teacher, probably.
Well, you'd be surprised. You can hold up a paper in front of a camera and you can usually read it, especially the camera that's right close, what's on the screen. So even a piece of paper will work because you want to see all the answers at once. Let me ask you, how many students are in a class at one time?
It depends on the period. It can range between 10 to 20.
Okay, but the whiteboard is the best because you see all the answers right away. And you know if you need to reteach or something like instantly right away. So try to use whiteboards. Our lessons are really set up with their A, B, C, D or single word answer. They have to give the complete sentence. You could have them write the complete sentence once in a while to make them forced to use the new vocabulary. But even they have to do it orally, but at least when they hold it up, everyone has to participate. I'm waiting for all the boards. I want to see your board. Get ready. Okay.
Right. The only challenge that we have is because we're, of course, screen sharing. When you're screen sharing in the platform we use, you can only see a certain number of students along the bottom of your screen.
Oh,
And some of our classes are only 30 minutes. So going from screen sharing to stop screen sharing back to screen sharing might be a little too time consuming sometimes
well, I would never go.
because
I would never
the
go off of screen sharing. I just leave my screen on all the time. I'm using.
yeah, it's just we wouldn't be able to see all the students with their whiteboards.
But,
That's the challenge.
but let me ask: do you have two screens at home or wherever you're teaching from, or only one screen?
Some of us have dual monitors, but it's the actual platform we use for
What
teaching
platform are you
that
using?
doesn't permit it. It's not our screen size, it's the
Oh,
platform only displays a certain number of students along the bottom of the screen.
well, you can
Unless
still work.
Shauna, like,
It's,
have you seen, has there been an update to New Row?
no, I know, and you get that little arrow to look at the rest of them.
No, not on our
No.
platform.
I think it's just 5.
Well,
Like
you
only
can work out
5.
something because you need to
Right,
call.
right, yeah.
You
Yeah, I
need
just
to.
wanted to acknowledge that
You need to
difference.
call non-volunteers. I mean, it's
Yeah,
got to be non-volunteers. You'll have the names. Well, you at least have the list probably of everybody who's in there. So it's got to be non-volunteers. Okay, and the complete sentences, when they answer, they're going to use the sentence frames. And most of our lessons have a sentence frame. If they don't have one, you're going to give a sentence frame. And also for ELs, I think I mentioned, don't let them use pronouns. You're going to say the verb, whatever it is, the character, the setting, the plot, the structure, whatever it is, the text structure, whatever it is. Let me give you one more that could be important. We spent a lot of time putting these together because we were getting stuck when we had wrong answers and we needed some technique to come out of them. We're all going to read this number 2 together. Ready, read. I'll come back to you. This is a great strategy. You've called someone if they're caught off guard or maybe they're not paying attention. So that's okay. And listen to some other students and I'll be back to you in a minute. And then the students know there's no getting out of it. I mean, every student is responsible for having an answer. Okay, and they have to be ready all the time. Okay, look at this one. 2 wrong answers reteach. If you're getting 2 or 3 students in a row with a wrong answer, you need to stop and be ready to reteach. Go back on the page and go back and reteach. Now, your last ditch with students who can't come up with an answer, you can say, just read it with me or say it after me. You want to keep the class moving and not getting stuck. The basic rule with whiteboards is you're trying to get 80%. The bulk of the students have to be correct. If the bulk of them are wrong, it's boards down and reteach. Occasionally, you can ask the students, well, it's right here, explain your thinking. Okay, I see you have a different answer. Can you explain your thinking? Now, here's one more big one if you're taking some notes. When you use whiteboards, do not use pure randomization. Always call it correct answer first. Do not pull a stick and have a wrong answer report out and all the students hear that wrong answer. Okay, so it's still random. You're looking around, you're picking somebody, say, I say, can you read your answer? Can you read your answer? And then if you see somebody with the wrong answer, now students, you can change your answer. We're all learning today. If you realize you made a mistake, just erase it. But then you should call those students who erased their answer or have the wrong answer to justify and explain their answers. You're really trying to have 80% when they first come up and 100% when you're done, even if you have to just read the answer together. Now I can do my own little checking for understanding right here. And I try to do on every slide. Okay, everybody, which one of these strategies, accuse and prompt, we kind of do automatically, but here's some other techniques too. Oh, de-escalate. When you say, what is it? Then you give a choice. What's the setting? I don't know. Is the setting the park or Cinderella? Give them a choice. Then they only have to recognize the answer as opposed to what we call the answer. That's the de-escalate. Okay, these allow you to keep the class moving and keep going and not getting stuck and reteaching the whole class when one or two students don't have it. Okay, everybody think for a second, which one of these could you use in your classroom right now? Okay, so Monique, you're new, so which one of these could you use in your classroom?
Oh, definitely I'll come back to you, especially when it comes to some students that maybe aren't that comfortable with picking up their mic. Just circling back to that. So I definitely would say that come back to you.
Now, you know what I forgot to do? Let's pretend this is a real class. I'm going to ask you what strategy you're going to use, and you're going to respond. The effective feedback strategy I will use is blank because. You got that? There's a sentence frame. The effective feedback strategy I'll use is, and then tell me why you did it. Remember, you have to justify your answer in every place. So, Mark, I'm going to try you. Which effective strategy will you use? Effective feedback strategies.
The effective feedback strategy for incorrect answers I'll use to explain your thinking to understand the student's rationale for choosing their answer.
Yeah. Now, what you're going to find is when students start talking like that, you go, wow, these students are really smart because they're giving that complete sentence, they're justifying their answer, and you've cued them. Okay, Julie, can you tell me one thing? The effective feedback strategy?
The effective feedback strategy that I would use for incorrect answer is pair share again, just to provide students with an additional opportunity to maybe process a little bit longer.
Right.
And if their partner shares something different, it may inspire a different thought or a different response for the student the next time.
Yeah. That's a good one too. And that's when you're, especially like if the kids are missing their complete sentence, let's pair share one more time with our complete sentence and make sure we've got it. Now, if the students are really confused, the pair share won't work because there's not enough traction in the room to pull it off. Okay, Shauna, you're the last one. The effective feedback strategy I can use is?
The effective feedback strategy for incorrect answers I would use is, I just like the I'll come back to you because it gives an out to the student and gives them, I guess, warning that they can't get out of it indefinitely.
Yeah, I'll tell you, these are good for classroom management. I've used these where kids do not want to answer, and I come back like a couple of times. And then the last time, if they don't want to do it, then I said, we're just going to read the answer together. I'm going to say it, the character in the passage, I'll just have them say it after me. Or even if they don't do the whole thing, I kind of do that. So I can keep the class moving, but it's a good classroom management strategy too. And it also helps the students. One more thing you can do when we pull sticks and stuff is you can use, I call it fake the stick. If you have weaker students, pick them as a second or third call. Don't make them the first call and let them hear a couple of answers and some of the information floating around the room. So you can just do that kind of on your own sometimes. Okay,
Oh, I'm sorry to interrupt, John. This is super helpful. And these are, we had also gone through these with Joel, so it's been really helpful for a review and as a means or a suggestion for classroom management, just given the amount of time that our team has. I was wondering, kind of circling back to Shauna's question a little earlier, at least when I joined, pertaining to specific lessons or areas where our middle school and high school teachers may look primarily, given the age groups that they service. Much of our training so far with this program has been related or I should say geared more toward elementary. So
Right.
I'm wondering if you could maybe show us, I know you gave us an example a little bit ago with what we might do with teaching levels 2 and 3
Right.
students, but any like sections on here that you just might recommend for upper grades in general?
Well, I'm just trying to pick one. See, like multiple meaning words come up through all the lessons. Remember we saw the one with bark? But I think if you look at this one, you're going to find out that the words are a little more advanced. Let's see what we've got in here. We've got tie. Let's see what we've got for the actual lesson. Okay, season, something we apply to food, and season, a time of the year. So by this level, the words have ratcheted up, the sentences have ratcheted up a little bit. I think if Joel went over this last time, the A, B, C, D levels are really set by Lexile reading levels. I think he explained that too. It's Lexile reading levels. So you can kind of do it by that, but you can't have a student who's way off on their Lexile. Let me just tell you one thing. You need to be ready to re-level your students. If they're really struggling in one, they need to drop down one level. If it's just too easy, they need to move up one level. So I found out that after you've done this a week or two, you might realize some of the students are misplaced and be ready to move them. Okay. So this
We
would be one.
don't necessarily have the luxury, unfortunately, of at least moving students that efficiently. There's many factors we have to take into consideration.
Right.
So assuming that our specialists are going to be assigned the same students, let's assume for the entire school year, what might it look like? Say we found this particular lesson was maybe too advanced and we're like, I need to take a step back and maybe
Right.
go to something more accessible. What would that look like specifically? Like with this example that you're using right now, what would you suggest?
Okay, this one, multiple meaning words. Okay, the advantage of Edusary, or I'm sorry, of Launch and Link, is that we've already put it together in a calendar, right? So when you pick something like this, here, quarter one, level D, it's got the lessons already set out for every day, for 36 weeks. And they're already there, okay? Now, you could go back to just the regular Edusary, There's all kinds of lessons in multiple meaning words. They're all the way down from it looks like first grade, third grade, level D, I think is the one we just looked at. Here's the F and D, E, F. So here's 3 of them right here. Okay.
That's really helpful to know that we can just revert back and sometimes utilize the search tool, kind of stray from maybe the sequence we intended to follow, but of course, oftentimes we might find, oh, I thought my students were here, but they're not, and we redirect pretty much all the time, as we anticipate our students to perform a certain way. But when they demonstrate otherwise, this is helpful because this is very realistic to what we encounter all
That's
the time
right.
as teachers. And
Right.
of course, team, I also want to invite you if there's anything in particular that you want to see that you feel that you haven't yet.
I guess my question is it better, or would you recommend like erring on the side of being too challenging for the students, or erring on the side of being too easy? Like, because I'll have potentially different levels of students in the same class, even though they're all a level 2. Should I go for the more challenging one or not?
Well, let's think about this as the research on EL. Cannot be too hard, cannot be too easy. If it's too easy, you're not learning any new words. If it's way too hard, it's just brain busters. So we should be in there where they're learning and applying new words. Now, part of it is how much scaffolding you do during the teaching. You can scaffold a difficult lesson enough that a student can get through it. But I think you could, read every phrase in here. You've got a picture to support. Okay. So part of EL is having a picture. Okay. And then this is a compound word is 2 words that are put together. So show me, we got 2 words. We're putting them together into 1 word. 2 words putting together into 1 word. And sometimes a compound word makes a new meaning. Okay. So sometimes they just mean exactly what they mean. Okay, so now we've got some. Now you can do the track reading and read this very slowly, read it very slowly, read every single answer. Do you read the answers also? See, rather than just saying, kids, do number one and write ABC on your whiteboard. Kids, look what we've got here. Read the sentence and the compound word. This is the compound word, manhole. Let's all read it together. Manhole. Now, let's what it does. It says read the sentence. We're going to read the sentence. A worker said that manhole says that manhole leads to the main city drain. Let's read together. Da, 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 da. Okay, Nando says what? Identify the words in it. So we've got two words in there. I'm going to do the first one, and it's easy. I can see man and whoops, I clicked too far. You see what I mean? Scaffold every single little step, and also do this step by step. See, you see how we first do this, then we go back and do this to enter it. Okay, draw the line between it instead of just saying, and give me the answer A, B, or C. Okay. So I think if you scaffold this, I got caught in a summer school once where I got pulled into school. So students were a whole grade level below what I had, and I managed to make it work. It was very slow, every single step, check everything. Then when they do the next one, you're going to read. They're going to write this on their board. They're going to draw the line to show they've got the two words. Okay, we're going to read the possible answers, and then they're going to write the possible answer on it. So I think you can go a little above if you really scaffold, but it can't be so far ahead that the kid. Now, I got to tell you another thing. You're going to have to see, it says the main city drain. City drain is where we drain the water in the streets. You've seen where the street, when it rains, you're going to have to do your own clues as you go. You're going to have to give some vocabulary words. We've defined here, number 3, identify. We've identified some academic language, but you might have to identify any word in the sentence. Any word in the sentence. Okay. So be ready to do that. So scaffold the reading and scaffold the vocabulary. Remember, EL is teaching, it's two things. It's language, language structure, and vocabulary is the other half of it. So be ready to do the vocabulary also.
That's very helpful. Thank you.
Sounds good. I have a question, John. Is there somewhere we can look up the lessons by standards?
We do have the standards in here. So these are the Common Core Learning Objectives, ELA. TESOL is the generic ELD. English is a second language. I think the California English Learner, here's the English Learners Objectives from California. So you might be able to pull up standards and find specific ones you're looking for. But I think you could start just with a generic one like this. Usually if the kids are way off, it's because they've been misplaced in the wrong one. So you might have to drop up or down a level. Now, like I showed you in a minute, if you take one like inferences, main idea, compound words, you can do the search and you'll find the ones that go up and down in that search. And then the scaffolding will do it too. If there's a placement guide, it's really done by Lexile levels. Okay, so the level F is your reading in this Lexile level. So 8 to 10 would be the F. And then the 6 to 7 reading level would be E. And this 4 or 5 reading level would be D. And these beginning ones down here are K, that you don't know any letters. Now, remember we talked about the cutesy K drawings of being too low, but if you have an adult and you're teaching English, they have to start at A. They have to get the letters, the English letters, and the letter sounds. Let me ask you students, what language are they mostly coming from?
Primarily Spanish and Arabic.
Okay. See, Spanish, they've already got the letters. Some of them, if they are fluent in Spanish, they already know the letters. They know the letter sounds in Spanish, and they need to get the letter sound in English. There's a few V and B and a few words that are difficult, a few sounds, but they've already got it. If you're in Arabic, you've got to go all the way down to the letters and even how to write the letters. We did a lot of work in China. And I said, oh, there's 26 letters to the alphabet. He said, no, there aren't. I said, yeah, no, there's 52 letters. There's the uppercase letters too. And I said, what? He said, yeah, they're all written differently. And we can't read them. So if you're Arabic, you've got to come all the way down at the letter level. Okay. And my wife's Hispanic. She's from El Salvador. So we've done a lot of EL practices. She came to the United States not speaking any English. And some of the stuff we've done is kind of from her own stories. The teachers talk too fast. They don't provide enough wait time. And the pair share is the wait time, so we use pair share as part of the wait time too. I don't know if you got anything else specifically you'd like to look at?
If no one else has any other questions, would it be possible, John, to give our team the opportunity, even if it's just for 5, maybe 7 minutes, work together in a breakout room just to explore some of the things that you've gone over.
All right, I'll let you
Thank
go
you
ahead.
so much, John. By the way, this has been extremely helpful. We really appreciate it. We do have a couple of questions for you, if that's okay.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay, my question just has to do with engagement for a completely virtual setting. Like what you have demonstrated and what Joel demonstrated is really awesome in your lessons with the constant like reading with students and getting them to read and participate. And we've just, at least myself, I found that it's hard to get students to show themselves on camera, and it's hard to get them to use their mics. So how to use this curriculum or this program in a 100% virtual setting? Like, do you guys have experience with that, or have you heard from others who have used it that way?
Well, when we had the COVID, we actually taught lessons to students and stuff doing this. And I think those of you who were early, I showed you the norms we had. And you kind of have to lay down the rules, students. These are our rules. Let's read the first one together. Video camera on. We all have to have our camera on. Let me see if everybody's got their camera on. I know you can't force the camera to be on, but it needs to be a classroom rule. And some of you already saw this before. I want your name typed on the screen so I know who you are. Okay, then we're going to mute and unmute. I like to unmute for choral reading because I like to hear. It's very difficult. You've done this teaching to just teach to space where you can't hear any feedback from the students. So you can decide that. The muting is really when you've got dogs barking in the background and other stuff. Okay, eyes on the screen. I expect everyone to look at the screen. When I do the reading, I want every eyes moving. You're checked reading. I want to see the mouths move while you're doing. I want you to see you pronounce the words. Whiteboards, we're all going to come up with a board or paper. And in the chat, you can use chat for like a whiteboard occasionally too. Okay, is it A or B? Type in on the chat, or which word is it going to be. So I don't have a specific rule to make students do it, but it's just classroom management. This is the way we're going to do it. And you probably heard that phrase, I'm waiting for 2 more people. I'm waiting for 1 more. Instead of saying, Joe gets you, instead of addressing the students that attack you, you're trying to pull everybody together instead of pushing them, one at a time. So I'm waiting with 1 more person. Now I see a couple of you don't have your whiteboards up, but that's okay. You still have to answer the question. If I call your name, you got to be ready to answer, even if you don't have your whiteboard ready. So I think it's just a matter of general discipline of anything. That you can see how important the tracked reading is. You need the engagement needs to be even more for virtual because you don't have anything to hold them there. You don't have any proximity effect or anything. So all the things we do in here with the posters, our general teaching norms, have to be done even more intently and more consistently, like all the time. We're going to pronounce more words, do more tracked reading, try to come up with a gesture for every lesson. So I think that's the main thing. You really need to do it even more and encourage everyone to participate. And you need to do a lot of tracked reading, a lot more than you think you ever did. You might as well, like I said, every word of the lesson. And for the younger students, Sean, is pre-read every sentence, the whole thing. For the beginning students, for the older students, maybe just pre-read a couple of words, and then you've got that echo reading as a backup.
Thank you.
I actually, as for my team, I have to jump out for an LPAC test session. There's one of the specialists having an issue, but the one thing I did want to bring up before I leave is another presenter shared to our other grade spans a YouTube channel that actually had some videos of teachers teaching actual students or going through lessons with students. If you have those YouTube resources as well, that would be super helpful if you could share those. I need to jump out though, and I just want to say thank you again, John, for this webinar. We really appreciate it, and this was really helpful.
DataWorks Ed, I put it in the chat. There you can see me right there. I'm doing the norms poster. Okay, look in your chat. Yeah, there I am again right there. Here's a couple of examples.
2, 3, read. Today we will compute the difference of whole numbers.
Track with me. Today we will distinguish, so we're going to tell apart something. We're going to distinguish between spoken and written English. I want you to read with me back underneath the word today. Ready, set, go.
Today we will distinguish between spoken and written English.
Anyway, there's a lot of videos there. Yeah, there's 119 videos. I'll just tell you one more thing before we go. If you look in the lesson, you see this little sign right here? Occasionally you have other activities. These are called flashcards. So if you click the flashcards, you've got all kinds of flashcards here. These are just kind of to break it up instead of doing the same thing. And I picked them on homophones. You can pick what you want and pick by different levels. So students, let's look at this. Homophones are words that sound the same. We've got male. Let's read the sentence. The male firefighter saved a child. Male, like a man or a boy. We've also got this word male. Let's all say the word male. Let's read the sentence. I have some mail. So you don't know what word it is. So get your whiteboards out. I'm going to read the sentence and you're going to write on your whiteboard. Which one are we going to do? Get ready, go. Did you get the blank today? Whiteboards up as fast as you can. Let me see what you got. Okay, great. Okay, raise your whiteboards. Get ready as fast as you can go. Sam has a blank and female cousin. Ready to go up as fast as you can go. So just to kind of break up the day, you always give a definition at first because we don't expect the students just to know this already. Okay. And then have the students read. Frederick is going to the park. Put vegetables in my cheeseburger too. Okay, let's read the sentence. Sonia wants to go dancing, and then put your answer in there. Okay. So these are more like fun, and you can use them like a contest or whatever. So when you see that come up, you can just pick whatever you're kind of working on or whatever you want to do. We've got flashcards. Okay. There's some quizzes in here. You can just download the quiz and maybe email it to your students to do it, or just put it up and have them answer on their whiteboards. They could just do that. There's some quizzes that have an email and they have to fill it out online and then email it to you. Yeah, here it is. They have to take this by themselves and write your email address in here. So just send your students the links, send them the link, and then do it. It's right here. I think you just send that link. Okay, anything else? I think a lot of this is delivery techniques. Do you see what I mean? It's the tract reading, the answering complete sentences, use academic vocabulary, and all of that. All righty, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.